Testing mic, testing mic. I mean, I would have started the meeting on time.
Gaveling.
Throw it at him.
Good evening. I'd like to call this December 13th, 2021 Sylvania Board of Education meeting to order. Ms. Shanks, can you call the roll?
Julie Hoffman.
Here.
Bruce Lanslutsky.
Here.
Greg Feller.
Here.
Kimberly Conklin.
Here.
Tammy Lavalette. Here.
Thank you. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and with that, we are with you, Dr. Molly.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffman. Good evening, everyone. Just a couple of notations for this evening under the superintendent's report. Much I'm going to share some items when we get to the board resolution, more specifically around facial coverings. I have some things I want to share, but I do want to say I had a great weekend. Saturday, attended the first Lego competition at Northview High School. It was so much fun and so great to see our little ones immersed in a STEM environment. Dr. Ruslan Slutsky was there. I don't know if you were a judge. Were you a judge this time?
I
You were a
did
judge.
judge.
Ms. Hoffman also joined us as president of the board and represented our district well. So it was just a pleasure to see our little ones out and really engaging in STEM hands-on activities and knowing that that's going to grow over time. So with that, it's just something I wanted to share in our SUPS report. One other just gentle reminder, noting to everyone who may be watching through our streaming feed, that we will continue with streaming for this board meeting and the second board meeting, which is next Monday. And after that, we will go with recording our board meetings and then posting those recordings online, just as we have done in the past. So just a reminder to everyone out there.
We actually didn't do it in the past. We had
You had a voice recording.
Voice recordings, I think.
We're going to go a little updated and do video recordings. So
Progress.
Thank
So much
you.
to see.
Can't come in your pajamas. Just saying. Okay. And with that, it's the first opportunity for public participation for items which are on the agenda. Seeing none, we are with you, Ms. Shanks.
Thank you. I would like to ask the board to approve two transfers. One is for the Northview Athletic Department, or actually it's the PI fund, and that's for the turf in 2025. And then the second transfer is to the PI fund as well, and that goes towards the extra debt payment. So at this point, we have 5 years of the debt paid off. So we won't have to make an extra debt payment until 2022-23 school year.
Great.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Julie Hoffman.
Yes.
Greg Feller.
Yes.
Bruce Lanslutsky.
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin.
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette.
Yes.
Thank you. And we're back with you, Dr. Motley.
Thank you. I recommend approval of item 5.1, acceptance of gifts. And I want to say we have so many folks in our community that are so generous with their donations. I would like to recognize Carl and Jackie Wheeler, who donated a Yamaha piano to our Sylvan music program. We have Melanie Henning, who donated a junior drum set to McCord Junior High. We have ProMedica Flower Hospital. Many of their employees participated in an engagement team fundraiser and also donated over 200 hats and gloves for our students across the district. I would like to send a special shout out to Amy Addington and Sandra Baer, who divided up those items and went around to every building and made sure that all of our buildings received a little bit of something for those families that were in need. And then finally, a thank you for a donation of a refrigerator to the Transportation Department by Sandy Gullickson.
I'll move approval.
A second.
Any comments or questions? Just thank you to all those that donated. I got a chance to see that piano. I went over for a little recital at Sylvan, and it's a pretty nice piano. So very much appreciated. Ms. Shanks?
Bruce Lanslutsky.
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin.
Yes.
Julie Hoffman.
Yes.
Greg Feller.
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette.
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend approval of item 5.3, the Sylvania Northview Wellness Center change request. I recommend the approval, wait, that's
Yeah.
5.2.
We missed
I
5.2.
skipped one, I apologize. I know I need new glasses, I apologize. Item 5.2, the vehicle purchase from Bo Townsend Ford, where we are recommending the approval of a purchase of 2 Ford trucks, one at the cost of $55,970 and the other at $50,970.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions?
Are these the snow plows, or are these just, okay, basic trucks, okay?
What are they for?
Pardon me?
What are the
Snow
trucks
plows.
for?
Oh,
to
snow
push
plows.
the snow, okay.
And during when it's not snow season, they're used for other multi-purposes, but mainly for plowing right now.
Okay.
Like
Which
moving
let's hope we don't
maintenance
lose.
and grounds, like
Yeah,
that
exactly. Let's hope little snow, less snow, less snow.
stuff. Lucky to find any
I like
vehicles
snow.
right now.
A little snow.
Good.
Right. Any other comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Bruce Vanswitsky,
Yes.
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin,
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette.
Yes.
Thank you. Now on to item 5.3, Sylvania Northview Wellness Center change request. We recommend the board approve the change request in the amount of $14,988 submitted by the Deventhal Company.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Comments or questions? Greg, you actually talked to them, didn't you?
Yeah, this is just some work that they did during the project. I think it was something with flooring maybe. It sounds like it maybe wasn't on the initial set of plans but needed to be done, so it was just a needed change order.
Anybody else? Ms. Shanks?
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette.
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin.
Yes.
Bruce Vanswitsky.
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 5.4, our OPSI collective bargaining agreement. Please note that this agreement was previously placed on the board agenda. However, it was an incomplete document. This is the revised document, and this agreement is a 3-year contract agreement.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Tammy Lavalette.
Yes.
Bruce Vanswitsky.
Yes.
Julie Hoffman.
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin.
Yes.
Greg Feller.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 5.5, I recommend a first read for a number of policies listed below or on the screen above there. I do want to bring special attention to policy 5516 on student hazing. I appreciate Tammy's feedback and input regarding some of the language that's in this particular policy, more specifically some of the inconsistent language. So I will be reaching out to Neola again to see where they are with this information. I didn't have a chance to reach out to them today, but I will reach out to them to gain some clarification in some inconsistent language. Some areas it says district staff, and then another area it'll say board employee or district employee or board employee. I think the other place was, what type of jurisdiction do we have if we are alerting alumni to hazing activity? I do know that this particular student hazing policy is derived out of the tragedy that happened at Bowling Green, where there was a student who lost his life due to hazing. And it's my understanding that they are trying to wrap their hands and their arms around anybody who is involved in hazing.
Mm-hmm.
For those of us who have been on a college campus, we know that sometimes alumni do come back and participate in what they call traditional activities. I'm sure that's where the essence of the law is going, but I will seek additional information because as a district, I'm not sure where the length of our consequence can go. Tammy,
Right.
do you want to add some more?
Yeah, I mean, my concerns were mostly just the language, not the substance of the policy at all. But there were just some inconsistencies in the way the employee groups and the people who would be bound by the policy are referenced in the policy. And then on the alumni aspect of it, I just don't know what kind of remedy we would have against an alumni who participated in a hazing. Hopefully none would, but I don't know what remedy we would have, and that was my question.
That's a good one, too.
So,
Well, we could borrow from our campus. It's probably about the only.
yeah. Which, in that case, it could just be any person. It doesn't,
Right.
wouldn't be limited to alumni,
Right,
which is,
exactly.
alumni are specifically referenced in the policy.
So did you wanna pull this one until you get further clarification?
Is it gonna be on again next week?
As
Yeah.
a second read, if I'm able to secure the information, which I'm sure I can,
think
at
it makes
least get
sense
some
to pull it-
feedback, and I can
to pull
report
it.
that out to each board member, what I find out from them, I can send that information to you. We can always, we have two options. If at the second read, you're not willing to approve it at that point in time, we can always pull that specific policy if we don't have the information that you feel you need to approve it.
I think I'm okay with proceeding today, and then next week, if we don't have the information we need, we can,
Table that particular policy.
I could move to table it.
Okay.
I had a question about why are there two weapons policies? They, as I read them, if you look, there's policy 3217 and 4217.
I believe that's designed, one is more than likely for your classified staff,
Okay,
and one would be for your certified staff.
got it. I knew it had
I
to be
can
something.
double check that,
Okay.
because
I think
typically we
that's
have for
right.
classified,
Okay.
certified. Sometimes you'll see a similar policy even for students. but
Okay.
It'll start with a different number.
Okay.
Anything else? Did we have a first and a second on this?
No.
I think she would, yeah, we hadn't gotten that far.
Okay, I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any other discussion, questions, comments? Ms. Shanks?
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin,
Yes.
Bruce Lesliewski,
Yes.
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette.
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 5.6. I'm recommending that we enter into an agreement with Golden Gate Financial Services. This financial service will provide consulting on an as-needed basis, not to exceed 30 hours, beginning December 14th, 2021.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Any comments or questions?
Just to clarify, this is for the interim treasurer.
Correct.
position, yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Ms. Shanks?
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Bruce Lesliewski,
Yes.
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin,
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette.
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 5.7 for approval. This is to enter into a contract for an interim treasurer as presented to Jeff Dorbush. He will be consulting through Golden Gate for the transition, but then will serve as our interim treasurer starting January 8th, 2022.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Bruce Lesliewski,
Yes.
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin,
Yes.
Julie Hoffman.
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 5.8. It is the recommendation to appoint an interim director of transportation. As many of you may know already, Deb Nish has stepped in to serve as director of transportation. While she takes on these extra duties, the appointment will be retroactive from November 11th until February 1st, unless we are able to secure a director before then, which I anticipate we will have one by next board meeting, so stay tuned.
So this week?
This week.
That's awesome.
That's
Okay,
what we-
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions?
A special thank you to Deb for really
Yes.
going above and beyond and filling in at the last minute and really working with our parents and our principals. We've heard a lot of positive feedback, so thank you, Deb.
Thank you, Deb. Ms. Shanks?
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette,
Yes.
Bruce Lesliewski,
Yes.
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin.
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 5.9. This recommendation is an approval of an amended district calendar for the year 2022-23. Mr. Zeroff, I didn't know if you wanted to speak a little bit about what that amendment looks like.
Yeah, just as the calendar committee has met, we convened last year and created 2 years. We created the 21-22 and then 22-23. As we're working on the 23-24 calendar, some things came up that we would like to see changed for next year. I think it's important, first of all, there won't be any changes to the start or the end date. or winter or spring breaks. A couple of items that were brought to our attention this year as we implemented some new things. We had staggered starts for grades K through 5. There were 3 days. Our K-3 teachers, for the most part, really bought into it, having 3 days with abbreviated class sizes. Grades 4 and 5 said we don't need 3 days. We can kind of accomplish with some things established with those kids in 2 days. So that's the first piece, is moving staggered starts from 3 days to 2 days for grades 4 and 5. And the other piece that was brought up were parent-teacher conferences. Currently, our parent-teacher conferences fall over Election Day, which going into next year would be November 7th and 8th. That's about 3 to 4 weeks past the end of the first quarter. It also falls on a Monday and the Tuesday for Election Day. And if you look at our calendar, with holidays and other teacher collaboration days and PD days, we use about 4 to 5 a year. This would add a 6 to that. Working with related services as well as special areas and things, students on rotations on those Mondays kind of don't get as many opportunities as other students. So we're looking to move conferences to October 27th and 28th. It's 2 weeks after the end of the first quarter. It's an opportunity to meet with those parents and students who need it a little closer to the end of the first quarter. It also moves it to a Thursday and Friday. We still want to make sure we have Election Day off for the safety and security of our students. We're looking to move the Professional Development Day that was originally on October 10th to November 8th, which will be the Election Day. It gives our PD committee and our teachers some more time, another month or so, to create some quality professional development. And then October 10th will be the OPSI Day, which will be a teacher collaboration day. So a few changes embedded with the overall calendar, which, if approved, will also help make some decisions on how we want to keep those changes that are embedded moving into 23-24. But those are the significant ones, or the only ones that will take place going into next year.
Okay.
So, are the conferences still going to happen on November 8th?
No, the conferences would take place on October 27th.
Oh, okay.
A Thursday,
So move it.
Friday,
Got
instead
it.
of Monday, Tuesday, November 7th.
Okay.
But we will still have a PD day on Election Day, so we don't have students in session when folks are voting for safety reasons.
So then so the kids will be out of school then though on the 27th and 28th?
They would be out on the 27th and the 28th.
And then also on Election Day?
On Election Day, the 8th, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just thinking about booking my Disney trip right
That's
now.
fine. And we want to do
27th
that
is just
now.
K
It's a
through
long
5.
weekend, yeah.
Yeah, it could be, sure.
We don't have a motion, do we, Lisa? I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any other comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Julie Hoffman?
Yes.
Rick Feller?
Yes.
Did you second?
No.
No, Kimberly
Kim
Conlon.
did.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Kimberly Conlon?
Yes.
Amy Lavalette?
Yes.
Bruce Lensowitz?
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 5.10 for approval. This is an affiliation agreement between Sylvania Schools and the University of Toledo effective January 2022. This agreement allows the University of Toledo students, more specifically from the College of Health and Human Services, to extend their learning experience within our schools. Typically, this agreement comes through about every year or every other year, so it's something that's done on a regular basis.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any questions, comments?
So is this basically like student nursing?
Could be
nurses?
student nursing, anything that would be under that allied health piece, but it could be nursing, it could be, I believe, social work, it could be anything in that therapeutic realm.
Yeah,
Okay.
any PT stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else? Ms. Shanks?
Julie Hoffman?
Yes.
Rick Feller?
Yes.
Kimberly Conlon?
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette?
Yes.
Bruce Lensowitz?
Abstain.
Thank you. Item 5.11 is a resolution that authorizes the superintendent to require facial coverings during times of elevated communicable disease, community spread. I would like to recommend approval and open to discussion. Board President.
Okay. Well, let's get a motion on and then we'll
Oh, wait.
discuss. I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Okay, comments, questions, let's discuss this resolution, I know.
Can I share some
Yes,
information?
you go.
Alrighty. I thought it would be important to share where we are currently within our district with the number of cases and things of that nature. So first I want to make sure everybody is aware that from December 3rd through Friday, December 9th, we had 40 new COVID cases in our district. Currently, we have 48 individuals in isolation. That includes 42 students and 6 staff members, and we have 66 individuals in quarantine. As we review our resolution this evening, I think there are a couple of things that come to mind, and one is a point of clarification. I know that in the resolution, it was brought to my attention that it says any facial covering requirement need not be universal, instead may be limited in terms of school buildings or grades, transportation, or other such criteria that the superintendent deems appropriate. And keeping the statement in mind, I need our folks who are listening in the board to understand where my professional recommendation would come from. First, I do not envision making a decision or recommendation that we have a mask policy for one specific school or one specific grade level. The one thing that makes Sylvania Sylvania in a way is that our families and our students are very engaged in a variety of activities. Therefore, they are not limited to just a building. If we had a junior high that we would choose to initiate a mask mandate for, those junior high students are going to integrate with probably elementary students and high school students, depending on their age. So I want to make sure we are on one accord. But I also know that from feedback with the board that we want to make sure our language isn't too limited, and if we need to remove that portion or that statement in the resolution, that is something up for consideration, because I do not ever see me going where it's going to be 3rd grade at a particular building or a particular building in the district. The other component that I would like to address is that the sentence that states that the superintendent will seek guidance from the members of the Board of Education prior to the implementation of a mask requirement. When I set the 90 case threshold, I failed to do that equitably, and I own that. That was my mistake and my misstep. And I assure you that will not happen again, because it's important that everyone have a voice around the table to share their thoughts. I assure you that I will seek guidance from each of you to determine what direction you would like to see us move forward. If it's a criteria of a threshold, a metric, mask, not to mask, it's somewhere in between. I would also like to take this opportunity today to actually hear your thoughts and input, because right now it was brought to our attention by a community member, and I think a couple of community members, if we should consider our large group gatherings. So for example, I was at Northview on Saturday with both of you. I would say there was a good 1,500 people in the building. I'm not good at guessing numbers, but there were a lot of folks in Northview. I will also say I attended the Northview winter performance. It's like less than 1,500. I'm thinking the kids.
Oh, it was way less than 1500.
That was like
Really?
1,500.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll say 500.
Maybe 500.
500.
No,
Okay.
no, there were 400 just performing.
At the Lego thing?
No, at the Northview Winter
Oh,
Parade.
that
yeah,
was the
that's,
other-
yeah,
that
different,
one
yeah.
I'll give
That's
you,
different.
is you can put easily 650 people in the
Right.
auditorium,
Mhm.
then all the students, so yeah.
Mhm.
absolutely.
And that was the second point. It was one of the emails we received is that we had the winter concert, and I went on Tuesday, and it was packed. I don't think there were a lot of vacant seats, so I would like to hear the board's thinking on where we stand with either requiring or strongly encouraging masking or a facial covering at large events, and how are we going to deem that large event? Because right now, we are mask optional across the district. So just to hear your thoughts. The decision will not be made tonight, but I would like to hear your thoughts if you feel comfortable, or if
So-
you would like to make.
So do you want thoughts on, obviously we need to discuss the resolution,
That's one.
okay. And then, so I just want to put out there that from my perspective, and I shared this with you in my email this morning, my concern is more of it's more of a policy issue in terms of, right now, our masking policy, and I think Greg's got a copy here, states that the superintendent will determine a masking policy for staff, and the board will determine a masking policy for students, and this is why we need this resolution, and I get that. My thought would be if we want to put this policy in the superintendent's hands, which I have no objections to, I would rather see it be done in the actual policy change and not a resolution. Because as the public goes in to say, well, you know, if I'm interested in looking at where does Sylvania decide how masks are worn or not, and I go to our policy manual, it says the board. And so then I look to the board, and the board says, well, sorry, we gave that power away. And we can do that, and I voted in favor of it before, and I don't have any objection to it. I just would like to see some sort of commitment that we, in the very near future, let's change our policies so we don't have to do these resolutions, and let's put a policy on that clearly defines, and because you had indicated, as far as the resolution that indicates that you could feasibly put on a different rule for buildings. I don't think you would have to have a policy that says, I'm only going to require masks at Maplewood. But if something crazy were to happen at Maplewood, you have the freedom under this resolution to say, hey, for the next week, Maplewood, we're going to wear masks. Or
Agreed.
high school, we're having this issue at Southview, let's wear masks for a couple weeks.
And
Where you have the power under this resolution now, and maybe we need to, when we change the policy, put that in the policy, so that it's transparent to the public on who's making this decision. Because I think that's been one of the issues over the course of the last 6 months, is who's making this decision. And so I think that is my concern with the resolution. I just would rather have a policy. And I understand we're about to transition, and the current resolution's about to expire, and we are facing potential increased cases. So those were my thoughts on the resolution. As far as whether we go to masks, I don't know if I have thoughts on that. I mean, I hate forcing people to do anything. But I do understand with these indoor large gatherings, I get it.
Well, and to your point, I think hypothetically speaking, and I do need to go on record saying we did send out, for example, I sent out the 90-day threshold for the cases, and it was brought to my attention, and rightfully so, what happens if we see an acceleration of cases in one particular building? Let's say X building has 60 cases in a week. I need for all of you to know, and those who may watch this with us tonight or later, that will solicit a different response. That would entertain the possibility of either closing a school and doing a hard clean. You sometimes see that on the news now, quite frankly, during flu season, if they will shut down a school because of the flu. I need our parents to understand that we need that flexibility, and I'm not sure that was communicated as clearly as it should have been in my last communication, and I will follow up with our community and our parents and our staff. But if we see a significant rise, let's say it's 60 cases at a building that's the size, hypothetically, at one of our elementary buildings, we need to be able to respond. We aren't going to say, oh, well, it's not 90, because that's a different threshold. So please know that information will be communicated.
Okay.
And there are extreme circumstances where that may happen. And I want to be perfectly clear about that.
And that was my concern too with the metric, was that to not bottle ourselves in, to let's be able to react to whatever situation comes up. And it's always good to have a guide, a metric in terms of, this is where we're likely you're going to see a mask if we get up to this level. That makes sense, but we need to also build in the freedom, and I think we can address that in a policy change as well.
Yeah, and I think we talked about changing the policy, but with the resolution expiring right now, I want to get the policy right. I mean, we did this last policy, we kind of did it quickly, and now we have a lot more information. We have experience with it, so I think we need to get the policy right, and not just try to rush it through before December's over.
Okay.
So I agree with you. I think the policy needs to change. We shouldn't have to be doing resolutions on this, and frankly, Dr. Motley should be making the decision. As a board, we're not running the district. I don't want to run the district. she needs to run the district and we need to give her the freedom to do that, you know, and of course, talk to us and, you know, gain our feedback because, you know, you need that.
Absolutely.
We have a revolt here at a board meeting.
Don't want that. Do not want that. And ironically, that's one of the things I wrote in sharing my thoughts, that I do think we need to revisit the board policy and make sure it represents where we are. When I look at the board policy, you'll notice the date is August of 2020, I do believe.
Right.
That's a long time ago.
And it was pretty new.
Yeah.
Pretty new.
Coming back to school
Long
after
time ago.
having closed down
Right.
and,
Yeah.
you know, we needed to figure that out. Well, now we have.
And also at
a
that
year of
time,
this.
we had a situation where there was a state mandate and the Board of
Yes.
Education was mandating. Now, we're on our own out here, so I think we need
Right.
a
We have
little
a
bit.
lot different information
We do,
today.
and we're a very different
We have
situation.
vaccines now. I mean,
We were
there's-
remote when
Yeah,
this
we
came
were
out.
remote, so that, and we were,
Remote learning.
you know, trying to adjust to if we come back, so, you know, I think as we sit here today, everything's a little different, so I
Yeah,
think
but
our policy should reflect
But I
that.
still think you should have in the policy, plan of action, like you said, you know, if it's at 60, maybe we do shut down and do a deep cleanse to try to, you know, I think that's, because, I mean, I think this is going to be an issue moving forward too. I mean, the variants are going to be around. Some people are not being vaccinated. So I think it's one of those things that I think you have to have a plan of action, and it needs to be written down so everybody understands where you're coming from. So when you do say we're going to shut down a school for 2 days because we need to clean it out because we've had 70 cases or whatever that number may be, people have to understand where that policy is coming from and why you're doing that, because otherwise you are going to have upheaval.
Now, see, I think we need to have more flexibility. I wouldn't wanna put that number in because, okay, let's say the number 60. 60 at Sylvan is a lot different than 60 at Northview, right? So I think we have to have she has to have flexibility, and I don't know that we need a policy that says, here's the plan, like this
Yeah.
number, this happens, because I think, you know.
Yeah, but then I'm not sure what you're basing policy on. You know, if you're just saying, well, we'll just pick a number then. You
Well, I
know,
think the policy
yeah.
needs to be that the superintendent
Makes
makes
the
the call.
decision. Right.
And this is
regardless of
what
what the number is.
Yeah.
and she needs
Right.
to make the call
Okay.
based on who she's talking to and
All
the
the
information,
factors.
all the factors, including board feedback.
Right.
But the policy itself doesn't need to be a metric. It can just give her the right to set the mask policy, or whether, I don't even want to call it policy. Are we masking right now or are we not? She makes the call. And with the flexibility to do it building by building, district-wide, after-school events.
But you need some data to guide that.
I think that's what that
Yeah, but I
metric
think the
is.
data is always going to
She can-
change, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the data
Yeah.
could change. I mean, the data we were looking at today is a lot different than the data we were looking at 2 years ago.
Well,
So,
yeah, but
I think,
Yeah.
I think she should have the flexibility to create the metrics if
To
we want,
react.
or change them, or react. I don't think we should put metrics in the policy.
that's fine. And I'm okay with that. As
Yeah.
long as it's data driven, I
Yeah.
think it's important.
And maybe
Yeah.
that's the language we
Yeah,
make sure
maybe
we
just,
have
yeah,
in our
data
board
driven,
policy,
yeah.
The
because
decisions are data-driven.
Data-driven, okay.
And other
Mhm.
factors.
with quality,
Yeah.
it's qualitative and quantitative data.
And I think, Dr. Motley, it might be helpful if you explain where the 90 came from.
Yeah,
sure.
Because I think, you know, the fact that it's a percentage of the school population might resonate with people.
It's a good idea, thank you. In working with our superintendent's group, and we communicate via text group a lot, especially when things are timely. A lot of times we also are in contact with our Toledo-Lucas County Health Department staff. I know that specifically Toledo-Lucas County Health Department was working with different districts in the county to say what's their recommendation, especially looking at what level should we move to a facial covering mandate, remove a facial covering mandate. For example, the first one out the gate, because we're all in different spots. The first one was, for example, Mommy, who said, well, he had connected with Eric and this is what it was. So we all jumped on a text with Eric.
Eric being at
The health department. Correct. And so it really was, for example, Mommy had a threshold of 30 cases with 2,600 as their ADM. We are exactly 3 times the size of Mommy, so that would put our cases at 90, or about 7,800 kiddos, give or take, on a given day. We also have about another 1,000 in employees. When you think about our coaches, our assistant coaches, at any given time, we can have about 1,000 employees, depending on the time of year. So keeping that in mind, we followed the algorithm that's being used in other school districts that have elected to use an algorithm. I will tell you, some districts are not. Some districts are saying, doesn't matter, there's a vaccine out there, we are staying mask optional, and that's that district and where the direction they choose to go. Other districts, such as Perrysburg, they saw a spike in 1 week. I believe they had 67 cases in 1 week. They chose to respond to that quickly, and they chose to say, you know what, too many, we are gonna go back to a mask protocol. So, but again, I will tell you for the record, Perrysburg is in Wood County. They are not in Lucas County, so they operate a little differently. So that's the rule of thumb where that particular number came out of.
I just want to clarify, so we have about 9,000 population with our students and our staff. So the 90,
yeah,
so the 90 is
give or take.
1% of our entire student staff population.
Correct,
Just want to clarify that.
correct.
And that's the same percentage that Maumee had, or Maumee
Yes.
got from the health department. Okay.
Is that what the health department is recommending? Taking 1% of the data? So you have so that's your data-driven point.
Mhm.
Okay, that makes no difference.
I think I agree with Kim. The purpose behind the resolution, I mean, when we did pass the resolution was to be able to respond quickly to changing circumstances. But there's a few things in the resolution that do not work out well in practice, and I think it would make more sense to address this in a policy at this point, particularly if we're in the place where where Dr. Motley can develop a metric, and so people can be on notice of what is coming, what types of data points might cause a change in the mask policy. So I personally would prefer to address this in our policy manual and replace policy 8450.01 with a new policy that provides the superintendent with the authority to determine when students mask as well as when staff masks. That being said, I'm not excited about passing this resolution again, knowing that there are things in here that Dr. Motley does not think would be a good idea for us to take, like masking in a specific school building, for example. And also, I think it's a little confusing in terms of communication with the board. So I might recommend, if we need to do a policy in the short term, something that takes out a little bit of this.
So you mean for the resolution?
Yeah, if we need to do a resolution in the short term
Right.
in order to have time to develop a policy.
So, because I think it sounds like we all agree we need to address this in a policy.
Mhm.
Well thought out, like get the policy, let's get a policy in place. But in the meantime, do you want to amend this resolution to maybe take out even that paragraph and amend the next paragraph? The superintendent will seek guidance. We can, from the members of the board, we could say from all members of the board prior to.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I'd
then
be satisfied with that.
So we could remove it is the intention, will of the board, any facial covering requirement be targeted to address specific need. You want to remove that whole paragraph?
Hang on.
I'm just wondering,
Let's say before we remove that, thinking about it today, I think we should keep the flexibility in there, just because, if our metric is 90 and we have 80 cases in one school and 5 cases in the rest of the district, I'm not sure that it's fair to mask the entire district because one school's having an outbreak.
and I understand Tammy's point is that Dr. Motley's indicated a preference for not doing targeted simply because she doesn't, of the sibling situation which she just went through. But the fact that we could still leave the flexibility in so
Right.
that maybe the health department changes her mind and says, hey, you really need to think about masking this one bill. I mean, she could change her mind, and this gives her flexibility.
Yeah,
We
I'd
could
like
take out
flexibility.
it is the intention and will of the board then, and just start it with the word any,
Yeah.
and then add may.
May, I would say
Yeah.
we have to put in may be targeted.
May be targeted,
too.
yeah.
That's good.
Okay.
Okay.
So take
Yeah.
out, it is the intention and will of the board.
Start it with any facial covering requirement
Any.
may be
Yes.
targeted.
May,
So
gotcha.
start at any, and then
May be targeted, got it.
all
All members of the board
we'll
prior
see
to the
guidance from,
implementation.
yeah,
Mhm,
from all members of the board.
got it.
And as long as we're making changes, I think in that 4th paragraph, it references staff twice. our current policy already gives you the ability to make any recommendations for staff, so I think this is really just targeted towards students.
I agree.
So I think
Okay,
we can take out
so-
and staff in 2 places in it.
So then
And
with,
staff there, and staff there.
well, then with the question that she has also posed to us about what do we wanna do about basketball games and concerts, this is only covering students. So do we wanna say just in our buildings, do we wanna cover that in here?
I think the current policy covers visitors.
Does it cover,
Yeah,
okay,
it does.
visitors, okay,
Because
so we
it's
don't,
district buildings.
Mhm.
Yeah.
alright, so does anybody want any other changes to this resolution?
One other question, so this only covers people coming into Sylvania, it doesn't cover our Sylvania folks going into other buildings in other districts? Okay,
We would,
that's,
if we were to go to Anthony Wayne right now.
we don't, it does, yeah, so that's,
It's
okay,
mascot
it's
show.
irrelevant.
Mhm.
Well, we're still in.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
But we couldn't follow, you're right.
yeah, we can't
So it would
reciprocate,
be
yeah.
Washington local, I think they're required,
Are they required now?
I think they are.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
So just clarification, so
discussion?
we're going to approve the
Well, we're gonna
resolution.
vote on it. I don't
Well,
know
we're
if
gonna,
it's gonna pass.
we're gonna vote on it,
Yeah.
and then, but we are going to look at revising the policy.
Yeah, I think we've been clear on that. We wanna revise the policy, you know, early into next year. Like, we
Right.
don't wanna wait until.
So my
the
question is
next round.
timing, because I know we have regular policy committee meetings.
Right.
Is this gonna be done in those, or is it gonna be done sooner outside of those?
We will seek Neil's assistance in doing it sooner
sooner, okay.
outside of that. And
Okay.
I thought what I was also hearing, that we want to revise this particular resolution.
Yes.
And then would we place it on, table it tonight and then put the new resolution on Monday's board meeting?
I mean, we could pass it as amended or.
Well, I think we need to withdraw the motion,
Okay, I'll withdraw the motion
then-
to approve.
withdraw the motion, and then, make the changes, and then we can approve the revised,
Okay.
or the amended resolution, if you're all comfortable with the language.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll second the withdrawal.
okay. So we've withdrawn.
Do we have to vote on that, or?
Yep.
Yep.
Julie Hoffman?
Yes.
Greg Feller?
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin?
Yes.
Bruce Vansky?
Yes,
Tammy Lavalette?
Yes.
And now you're gonna vote, which becomes 5.12, the amended resolution.
Okay. So I'll move approval on item 5.12, the amended resolution.
Can we,
no, we have a 5.12.
Lisa, do you have, do you know what the amendments
Yeah,
are?
no, we can't
Or
even
we need to-
5.12.
I think we need to read them.
Yeah, did you, I thought someone wrote the.
We did,
amendments.
yeah.
Okay, the revisions.
We have a-
5.11.
Yeah, no, but then, yeah, it was 5.11, but then we withdrew that one, so now will transportation support become 5.13?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what happened. So you wanted me to read it as amended?
Just the amendments, just so everybody's clear what the amendments are.
Okay, so.
Actually, can I, there's
Yes.
something that's just made me crazy about this ever since we did it initially. In the very, where it says the superintendent will seek guidance prior to the implementation of any facial mask requirement, we use facial covering in everything else, so if we could change that word mask to covering, that would make me really happy.
Yeah, red
Where was
pen.
that? The first?
Second to last paragraph,
Oh, sorry,
It says
go ahead.
facial mask, and everywhere else we say facial covering.
second to last word.
Oh, I see.
And that is more consistent with our policy too, which uses the term facial covering.
What do you need us to do, Lisa?
Do you want me to take a stab at it? I think I have it.
I think I've got it right here. Okay, so now you want me to read the amendment? Everybody wants to hear it? Okay, so in paragraph 4 is now gonna read, now therefore be it resolved that the superintendent is authorized to require facial coverings of students as the superintendent deems reasonably necessary to protect the health and well-being of the district's students. We're removing and staff out of that. And in the next paragraph, we are going to delete the sentence, the beginning sentence from it to that, and it will now read, any facial covering requirement may be targeted to address specific need. Therefore, any facial covering requirement need not be universal and instead may be limited in terms of school buildings, grades, transportation, or other such criteria that the superintendent deems appropriate under the existing conditions.
Circumstances.
Circumstances, and in the final, or the next paragraph, it will now, we're gonna change facial mask to facial covering.
And change the to all members?
Yep, and change, it'll say the superintendent will seek guidance from all members of the board prior to the implementation
I'll,
of any facial covering requirement.
I'll second that.
Anybody motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, I motioned.
Okay, gotcha, okay.
Thank you.
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Bruce Lensowitz,
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette.
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the discussion and conversation. I appreciate that. So now we're moving on to item 5.13. Lisa, is that correct for transportation support?
Yes.
It's the new 5.13. Thank you. I recommend the approval of an additional 40 hours for Heather Hawk and Joshua Mattis for routing services to support our transportation department.
I'll move.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Greg Feller.
Yes.
Bruce Lensowitz.
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin.
Yes.
Julie Hoffman.
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to human resources, licensed staff. I recommend items 6.1 through 6.11 on a consent agenda basis. Item 6.1 looks to increase the daily substitute teacher rate effective January 3rd of 2022 to $125. Item 6.2 is the recommendation of approval for employment of Cheryl Sanders as an ABLE staff aide for the ABLE program. Please note that this position is supported through grant funds. We have about 5 teachers and I believe 2 or 3 aides that support our program Aspire in our partnership with them. Item 6.3, we have a recommendation for the approval of a resignation for an intervention specialist at Central Trail. Item 6.4, boy, this is a tough one. We have 2 long-term educators that have submitted their retirement letters, and although we wish them very well, they are more than deserving and put their time in our district. Pam Thiel and Jody Hess are irreplaceable. This is bittersweet. You'll see Pam there has 33 years of service dedicated to our students and our district, and Jody Hess has 34 years of service. And I believe you even said, Julie, if we don't vote on it,
I said no.
it can't happen.
What if we
It's
just
not
say
going to
no?
happen. She can't resign.
just say.
She can't retire. But I just want to say a special shout out to these 2 ladies because they have done a fantastic job supporting our students. Pam was on stage just on Tuesday and on Thursday, and just seeing how she gets such a great response out of our students, just cultivating their talent.
Can't
So,
imagine Northview performing
gosh,
arts
I
without
know.
Pam Theo.
It's definitely a loss to our district for the days and hours of dedication that they have given. We cannot thank them enough for their service, and we wish them well. Item 6.5, we have a list of substitute teachers. Yay, we have several that are starting in our district. Item 6.6 is the recommendation of approval for an unpaid leave. Item 6.7 is the correction of a start date for 2 SEA members. Item 6.8 is a recommendation of approval for supplemental positions for our district. Item 6.9 is the recommendation of 2 athletic volunteers. Item 6.10 is the recommendation of approval for a stipend for a junior high honors course selection scheduling development. Item 6.11 is also a recommendation of approval for license extra duty pay for several of our teachers. And of course, item 6.12 is the consent agenda approval.
I'll move approval of items 6.1 to 6.11 on a consent agenda basis.
I'll second.
Comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Bruce Lensowitz.
Yes.
Greg Feller.
Yes.
Julie Hoffman.
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette.
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to human resources classified, I'm recommending approval of items 7.1 through 7.9. First, we have 7.1, which is our supplemental positions for this coming second half of the school year, actually, for a number of positions here in the district that are sports related. You'll see another esports coach on there. Yay. Item 7.2, we have a number of folks who we are recommending for new hires, and you'll see a number of substitutes, so we're gaining some momentum. We appreciate those folks who are coming to our district to seek employment and help us with the education of our students. Item 7.3 are a number of classified resignations. I think it's important to note that many of these substitute resignations are people who originally signed up to work in our district and have elected not to serve as a substitute in that capacity. They've never shown up to work. So we've reached out to them and we are seeking to remove them via board action. Also, and I'm talking from the beginning of the school year, by the way, item 7.4, we have a number of new personnel that will be joining our district. You'll see several that are moving from different levels to different buildings across the district. Item 7.5, we have one classified unpaid leave correction. Item 7.6 is also another classified personnel action that is a correction from a previous agenda. Item 7.7, oh my gosh, we have another retirement of 30 years in our district. Cynthia Parentis will be leaving us January 1, and we want to thank her for her service as a bus driver in the transportation department. She has truly driven our children thousands of miles, and we will miss her. And hey, if you retire in 30 days and want to come back, we'll take you, just in case you change your mind or you miss our kiddos. So we wish her well, and we thank her for her dedication of driving our students and keeping them safe on our roadways. Item 7.8, I recommend the approval of various extra hours duly noted in the item there on item 7.8. Item 7.9, we have a few resignations noted specifically around cheerleading. And then item 7.10, again, is the recommendation for the consent agenda approval.
I'll move for approval items 7.1 to 7.9 on a consent agenda basis.
I'll second.
Comments or questions? Yeah, I guess I'm curious why are, this might be an obvious answer, why are supplemental positions here and up at 6.8?
Classified are typically folks that are not teachers, licensed staff. So teacher staff is my understanding. And then if they're classified, they could be from the outside that are not licensed. So you may have, for example, a cheerleading coach, but that's my understanding. I can double check. Are you under the impression they should be under both?
They've always just been in one
I thought if they were
spot.
outside from
Well, they're not
an
really
outside
classified or
perspective.
licensed, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Classified or licensed?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
they're not
guess I
really-
was just curious why in the two.
Typically licensed, so if I'm a teacher and I'm coaching, I am under the license
Okay,
portion
so,
of the agenda.
but then you have athletic volunteers under the license, and like Terry Hoffman, like he used to be a teacher, but he's not a teacher, so why would that?
Is he
become-
retired now?
Yeah, he's retired.
So he's
but-
not an employee?
No, I don't think so. So I guess I was just curious why they're like,
Yeah.
because I thought of that and I went back and forth to look. Okay, are these
I can
employees?
clarify, I thought we
the
had him in
volunteers-
two, and that might have been my error, and if so, I own
Okay.
that.
Supplemental contracts that are reserved for certified staff, and actually when a classified individual enters into a contract, it's actually a pupil activity contract. So
It's not a it's not a,
it's not a supplemental, it's a pupil activity contract when they're classified.
So this is how it should have,
It should be, but it actually should be, it's a pupil activity contract.
and not supplemental. Because
But it falls under the supplemental contract.
right. I just was curious why they were in different spots because I don't recall that. I mean,
Yeah,
ever
I don't
being a
know.
thing. They've always just been in the same spot.
Yeah.
There's just a long list of them. So I just wondered if something was different now.
They would pay into SERS.
and not STRs.
Okay.
But I will double check just to make sure, but I believe you are accurate, because I think that's why I said when we did our agenda review, like, were they, because they were all in one area, and I was like, I don't think that's right, because you're not licensed.
Well, yeah, I just wondered why the change.
Mhm.
Okay, that makes sense. All right.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody? Ms. Shanks?
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette.
Yes.
Julie Hoffman.
Yes.
Bruce Leslinsky.
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And this is the second opportunity for participation for items not on the agenda, and seeing none, we are going to have a conversation about Sajard appointment, because as a board we do several appointments, right? How many do we have? 3?
We have 3.
3, and you. And somebody's up. So, like, one of the terms is expiring, right?
Yeah, so so as Julie said, we've got 3 public appointees that the board has on Sajard. So Sajard's made up of 12 people. There's an elected official from the township, the city, and the school board, and then there's each of those entities gets 3 appointees for a total of 12. And they're 3-year rotating terms, so every year we have 1 seat that's up. So I thought we need to have a discussion about what we want to do, how we want to fill it. I think in the past, prior to the last couple of years, I think we've advertised that and taken resumes and interviewed.
Sort of, not exactly.
Okay.
So in the past, I think the appointments were made by, like, say, our board member that sat there would say, okay, you know, I recommend these people, because I think some of our appointees have been there a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe like 2 years ago, we decided to, hey, like, let's open where we have these appointments, let's take applications,
Right.
interview, and make the appointment that way for the 3-year term. And we did it, I feel like we only did, you were here when we did that, right?
I can't remember.
So I think we did it the one time, and then COVID sort of hit.
I know
and I think we
COVID.
missed it last year, but
Yeah.
we had just put it in place 2 years ago, like just prior to COVID. This is how we're going to do it now. Let's advertise it, take applications.
Do we advertise it to employees?
No,
It can be
no,
anybody.
community members. Yeah,
Yeah,
but it
it's-
could be an employee. They can apply for it too, because I do think we actually did have an employee that did apply for it. So, but yeah, I mean, if they're community members. So I think we were looking for people that are in the community, and then we can make the appointment. And then I think we just missed the 1 year because we were in the middle of COVID,
Right.
maybe not meeting, and you probably brought it to us and said, hey, and I don't even know who that person was, but
Right.
you know, how we want to do that. If we want to just now make that a thing where we're going to take applications.
Yeah, so I think we should. I know when I first got on Sajard, I got on through the city and I had to go through an application and interview process. I just think it's good to just put it out there, but just wanted to bring it up to the board and see what everybody else thought.
Are you sitting on the board now as a city appointee then?
No,
No.
I'm
You're-
the school
you're
board.
the school
I'm
board,
the
right?
elected school board official on
Okay.
the board right now.
Which could change in January when we have the organizational meeting. That's going to be you, Kim. Already signed up. You didn't even know. It goes around the room like this.
That's right, yeah.
So when does that appointment that's expiring, when does it expire?
So it expires at the end of this year, but our first meeting in January, I believe, it's either the 3rd or 4th Wednesday. So we've got, or the 3rd or 4th Tuesday of January. So we've got a little bit of time. So my thought is, if we want to do this, maybe we advertise next week, give people a couple weeks, do interviews, and then maybe at our first meeting in January, we could make an appointment.
Make an appointment.
That's
Okay.
what I'm thinking.
Everybody good with doing it?
So are
that
we
way?
going to interview
Yeah.
as a whole board?
Yeah.
In
Because we
addition
have a
to
lot
the
of
treasurer
interviews coming up.
interviews?
That's correct. I mean, we don't have to do it as a whole board. I mean, we can just have a couple of, but everybody has to approve it, so.
We could put it on the board agenda though then.
To,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. it would-
I'm just concerned because we have a lot of
We have a lot of interviews
meetings in
coming up.
January.
Yeah.
What's a couple more? Yeah, well, only like 10 people will apply for this. What's the problem, Kim? But
Not
yes.
this year.
And then kind of as an aside to that,
It's almost cookie season, Julie, I'm just saying.
As an aside to that, I kind of feel like maybe, this is probably more Tammy's, but maybe we ought to have a policy on this going forward. So like when the board does have public appointees from the community, we have a policy of this is what we're gonna do, interview, whatever.
We may, did you
So,
check, do we have a
I
policy?
don't,
on it?
I looked, I cannot find one.
Tammy will let you know.
I'll look.
She probably knows off the top of her head. She's got them all.
I don't know off the
Tammy's
top
reading
of my
all
head.
the
Word for word.
policies.
But I'm
Um,
excited to find out.
She is.
So, I think for now we can, I don't think we need to
Advertise
vote
it.
on it. I think if we decide, we can just go ahead and advertise, but I do think eventually we probably should have a policy for this.
Okay.
Definitely. So basically what we're doing is we're asking Amy to advertise that for us.
Yes.
Okay, and I'll get you like specifics of deadline, and do you still have the applicant work from the last time we did this?
I'm thinking I was here when we did that.
Yeah.
So I'll look back through what I have.
I mean, I know it was like just a short application, kind of, and why are you interested? Okay. All right, so you'll see if you have it. I don't know if I have it. Okay.
And then one more thing, and this is not related to that, but just in general, I believe this is gonna be Ruslan's last meeting.
I was getting to that, yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I won't steal your thunder.
No, you go.
I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for dealing with everything you've had to deal with over the last couple of years.
Thank you, Greg.
So I just wanted to acknowledge you before.
We're gonna miss you.
It's appreciated. Thank you, Kim.
We
I
very
will miss you
much
guys too.
do appreciate your service. It's been 3 years now, right?
Yeah.
Do you wanna be on the stage art board?
Did you want to
I actually can't. That's why Greg's on it, because I teach Tuesday mornings, and that's when they meet.
Oh, that's
so that's why I
right,
couldn't
that's
be on
right.
it. I actually originally was on it, and then I realized I could never attend. So yeah, thank you so much. It's very nice.
Well, we hope you'll stay engaged. I know you'll stay engaged
Absolutely,
with, you know, the district and,
always.
you know, we'll...
Bittersweet.
We'll pull you back, it is. Well, we'll miss you and we thank you for your service.
My
If I
pleasure.
could add to that, thank you. I know you were part of the team that hired me. I've always appreciated your perspective, and we're not gonna let you get too far. Yes, we know where you live.
That's fine.
We know.
I mean,
we know where he works.
He's already blocked all of our numbers. He's just sitting there seeing him. He's like,
Shut
Yeah, actually, I
down
have.
his email,
Block,
all
block,
that
like, delete,
stuff.
delete. No, I mean, you let me know however I can help. Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Thank you for investing in me and taking a chance. I really appreciate your support.
Of course.
Thank you, Ruslan.
Thanks, Tammy.
You're so sad to leave us.
I mean, you know what it is. It's it's a 3 years. I mean, we work together. It's tough. Absolutely.
I'm sure your family is happy to get
My
you
wife
back.
is very. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else? No, with that, we don't have executive session.
No, we do not.
Okay, and with that, I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Do you want to hit this first?
Heck no. Good.
Ms. Shanks?
Julie Hoffman?
Yes.
Greg Feller?
Yes.
Ruslan Fligsky?
Yes.
Kimberly Thompson?
Yes.
Amber Lana Webb?
Yes.
Ruslan Meeks?
Thank you. Oh yeah, you take your
Oh,
nameplate.
sweet. That's like the best thing.
I mean, unless the
It's
next
a good
one's named
paperweight.
Ruslan.
That probably.
Right, Jill?
I don't think you'll ever have this
You
name.
wanna just take
Cool.
his? Her name's Jill
Masking
Johnson.
tape over it. and Just put Jill Johnson on it.
Thank you for the nameplate. That's awesome. I'll put this in my office.
That'll be cool.
Yeah.
You can stick it in your desk.
Yeah, I'll put it in my office
Okay.
right now.
Like, yeah.